Multiple winter storms are on the way as a series of storm complexes will be moving in across the country heading into next week with much colder air on the way. But first, let's take you back to the last 30-day snowfall map. This is actually since January the 8th, and definitely we've seen some pockets of heavier snows, but we'll also seen some pockets of hardly any snow, and these are what they call these snow holes, these dry slots across the middle part of the country. We also see another one off here across the East Coast, but a lot of those areas are actually going to be filling in over the course of the next 10 days with these series of storm complexes that will be moving in. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel to keep you well ahead of the storm. So here's your water vapor imagery this morning, because we do have yet another storm complex that will be moving in, and we do have another winter storm that's going to be impacting for the next 24 to 36 hours. Across the south, we're still in that dry slot with that zonal flow still in place, but the colder air, the cold front that we've been kind of talking about is finally going to be on the move, and that jet stream that's locked up all the warmer anomalies further south is finally going to give way, and this dam is going to break, allow some of that colder air to filter in further south. But across the north, we'll be watching a conveyor belt of moisture and a continuing winter storm with heavier snows are going to be moving across from the north, and we do have winter weather advisories and some winter storm warnings in place. So currently right now we've got snow flying up there into Duluth, back into areas of Minneapolis. We do have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in place for them, and that is only going to be progressing eastbound as we get throughout the day. Further south, we do have winter weather advisories for Chicago, back into the Fort Wayne region, getting into Cleveland. That'll swing over into the Pittsburgh, even further south into the DC, Philly, New York, up here into Scranton. But once you get up here in the pink shaded area, we could be looking at 7 to 10 inches of snow, and that would include Bridgeport, Providence, back into Boston, Albany, into the Concord region, and as well as up into Portland, Maine between now and the next 36 hours. So we do have some minor to major impacts, especially for those areas along the coast where you see that area in orange. That's where we have the winter storm warnings in place for those areas that could see some additional power outages with some of that snow waiting on the power lines. We're also going to have some icy concerns as well across areas of the Ohio Valley. So here we go, heading into the 4 o'clock time frame. There is your cold front sinking further south, so out ahead of it we do have some light to moderate rain showers and some stronger thunderstorms further south into Mississippi as well as into Tennessee, some heavier pockets of rain into Kentucky, back into Charleston, and as well as into Pittsburgh. But further north, it's just all snow coming in, and that will be swinging across pretty much the entire state of Michigan by the 4 o'clock after time frame, and that will likely swing into Pennsylvania. So we got that transition of kind of an icy mix, and that'll transfer to all snow there in Philly, New York City, and then again as we head deeper into the evening time frame tonight, get into the overnight, it is just likely all snow up here into Hartford, back into Concord. That does include the Providence region, Albany, as well as into Portland. Those areas, like I mentioned, even up to Bangor, could see some 7 to 10 inch totals, and also icing concerns as well. So out ahead of it in that warm sector that's lifting further north, so that south wind, some of that colder air pressing from the north, we do have that overturning type setup, and we have some at least a glazing to a couple of tenths of ice. Some areas could see up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice, but especially there into West Virginia, areas of Maryland, back into Pennsylvania. They already went through a round of ice with this first system. Now they're getting this other system that's moving through this for Saturday and even into Sunday morning. But there is your snow amounts for this first winter storm that will be impacting at least the northern tier of the U.S. We could be looking at more than a couple more inches, where it already has snowed up there into Minneapolis. But once this moves over into Wisconsin, back into Michigan, we could be looking at a good 4 to 6 inch snow swath across that region. But especially as we get up, we'll have those icing concerns more or less into Pennsylvania, but further north into northern PA, as well as into New York. And there is that bullseye, if you will, of that 7 to 10 inch snow swath will include the Boston and Providence region between now and Sunday afternoon. But that cold front will be on the move, and you can see by Monday morning that dam finally breaks across this region, and you're going to be experiencing much chillier air further south, where we've seen numerous record high temperatures over the course of the first week of February across this region. Now it's going to be completely the opposite, as we've got more of a chillier rain. And we've got these conveyor belt of moisture coming in off the West Coast, these series of actually atmospheric river events that's been pounding the West Coast, Oregon, Northern California. We'll eventually have one for even Southern California, but it's going to be traversing across this zone, and they'll be doing more of a west to east to more of a northeast flow, and that will follow the jet stream. So here's your overall jet stream on Monday. So as that colder air continues to press south, we'll watch these conveyor belt of systems move across this region. So if you're essentially south of the line, you're likely into the all rain sector. If you're north of the line, you're going to have more of a wintry mix and some snow probabilities, as these series of storm complexes will be moving across the country, essentially from west to east. And as we head into that Tuesday afternoon time frame, I think most of the rain starts on Monday night in Texas, but then just amplifies heading into the overnight hour into Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon across a good part of Texas. More of a chillier rain in the 40s, Oklahoma, Arkansas, into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. But you have that transition to some snow there in Missouri, back into Illinois, and then getting into some heavier amounts as you go to Kentucky, but especially there into areas of Virginia and to Delaware as we head into that Tuesday afternoon. But we'll have yet another disturbance coming right on the heels. So once that back quickly moves through, then we'll have not much of a recovery, because by Wednesday morning, well, yes, we'll have another disturbance. So we're looking at, again, more chilly rain for those areas across North Texas and to Central Texas, but some icy concerns once you hit northwest of the Metroplex, as well as into Oklahoma. But there should be all snow coming out of Colorado into Kansas, as well as in Nebraska, back into Iowa. So now we're getting into the snow donut areas that haven't seen much snow. I think a lot of these areas back into Iowa, southern portions of Minnesota, northern Illinois will be getting into the snow zone, if you will, starting from this point forward, because we're going to be seeing a storm complexes one after another. So we should start to see heavier snows move back into the region of Missouri, back into Iowa, northern Illinois, Indiana, even some heavier snows move through Wisconsin. Adding those totals again to Michigan, we should see more icy concerns into Ohio, back into Pennsylvania again. But then again, once you move up into New York and get it off the coast again, we'll be adding to those 7 to 10 inch totals with yet more snow by the time we head into that Thursday morning time frame. And that's when we'll also be watching that complex that's coming on off the West Coast again, and that will likely sink even further south. So we could be looking at some heavier rains, if not some flooding rains, for those areas across Southern California, as much of the region will start to be impacted with that much colder air. So we've got 20 below zero up there in the Dakotas. This is your Thursday morning, February 13th time frame. We've got 14 in the Panhandle, 28 in Dallas, 16 in Oklahoma City, 29 in Arkansas. So you can see definitely where you're in the warmer sector again, with that southeast ridge trying to hold on as the colder air continues to plunge a little bit further south. So as it does, we'll be looking at some heavier rains in that warm sector. So this is your precipitation amounts between now and say Thursday morning. So we'll have these systems come on off the West Coast. This actually doesn't include a good part of Thursday, because this ends at 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. But nonetheless, this likely be getting some 1 to 2 inch totals for areas east of I-35, especially there into Arkansas. We could be looking at some 2 to 4 inch totals, even some higher amounts with some flooding concerns into Mississippi, Alabama, back into the Tennessee region, into Kentucky. Then we'll have kind of a mixed bag with that icy concerns, and then further north it should be more of a mixed bag, and then that all snow variety once you get further north, especially there into the northeast. But we'll be watching yet another disturbance, right? I mean, it's just a conveyor belt of moisture. So yeah, this is Valentine's Day now. There's that storm complex that comes in for Southern California. And again, that will be traversing across the country, more or less lifting east, northeast bound. And as it does, it'll have that lift associated with it out ahead of it. So we should start to see some more sporadic snow showers across the Four Corners regions, some heavier rains moving further south again into the southeast. But then it should be all snow again into, Minnesota, into Iowa, back into northern Illinois. That swings into Wisconsin. Again, Michigan gets pounded with more snow, and that will only traverse across the Ohio Valley. So by next weekend, we should see the northern tier to be impacted with the snow, and with some higher amounts moving through northern Illinois, back into Iowa, but especially more areas. This is on top of the 7 to 10 inch totals you're getting now. And then you'll have, this is your 48-hour total from next weekend. So you can definitely see we've got some pretty impressive totals coming up for you for about a 10-day time span for New York, and especially for Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Boston region. You could be looking at 2 feet of snow between now and the next 7 to 10 days as much colder air continues to plunge southbound. So yeah, once that dam breaks, which it would likely be today, there's not much really going to stop this colder air as it lays a fairly decent snowpack in its wake. So this is by next Sunday, folks. This is the 16th. So much of the lower 48 will be locked into that colder air with the southeast ridge trying to hang on. But I do feel by the 17th time frame, it's not going to be hanging on any longer, as that colder push will finally push more or less into the east and kind of eat away that southeast ridge. And you can actually see where a lot of the snow is going to be lying is where the purple is. They see that actually snow on the ground, and that's where you have the temperature start to plunge, probably adding another 10 degrees lower than likely would if you didn't really have much snow on the ground. So it's going to be laying the groundwork, and then you have the cold dome come over the top. So that's going to be, not going to be melting for any time soon. And this is the blend of models, folks. This is over the next 10 days as we'll be watching these series of storm complexes. So again, like we talked about with the jet stream, if you live south of this line, you're likely into the all rain or the chillier rain, even some stronger thunderstorms and some flooding rains across this region. But further north, you're in that conveyor belt of moisture. So you have these series of storm complexes come off of the west coast, dump some heavier rains along the coast, higher amounts as the Intermountain West. And once you move into the central U.S., all these areas in pink, those are double-digit totals, folks. So yes, this snow hole that you haven't seen much snow will be adding at least 10 to 15 inches by the time from now and the next 10 days, and even some higher amounts as you swing into Wisconsin, into Michigan. But once you get up here into the mid-Atlantic, and especially there, those areas in the Northeast, you could be looking at some pretty impressive totals, up to 2 feet of snow in areas. And even some higher amounts, 3-4 feet is definitely not out of the question once you get into Vermont and New Hampshire and portions of Maine. That's just in the next 10 days, folks. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update while I protect you before and after the storm.